Hi, I'm Eva Kimsing, editor of identityweek.net. This morning I'm joined by Alex van Duuren, who's a long-standing partner really in Identity Week, and he's the senior advisor of research and development for the Ministry of Justice and Security at the Immigration Naturalization Services based in the Netherlands. It's really great to speak to you this morning, Alex, and really share some details around your participation this year at the event in June. Um,
Thank you, Avi, and I'm glad to be here.
um, I want to touch on your sessions, which this year you're really focused on really speaking about digital ID and the innovations for that. First of all, do you think, obviously, there's a lot of talk around digital ID and do you think these past few years since COVID have really expedited innovations within the ID ecosystem, in particular wallets and banking?
Absolutely. I think in that way, COVID was a blessing. COVID opened a lot of doors related to the future of digital ID, because during COVID time, suddenly a lot of people adopted digital wallets with bank cards in order to arrange payments, which they normally did with a physical card. Which has some hygiene restrictions related to using your card and using the machines with the buttons by the time. So I think a lot of people adopted digital bank cards now, and they fully rely on these cards. And there was hardly fraud with these cards compared with the physical ones. So I think, yeah, this really opens the way people, public, think about integrating these wallets and these kind of technologies in future.
Absolutely. And in terms of, in the Netherlands, how are you still adopting digital ID or ID forms? How do you get it to your systems, in the context of everything that's going on with the European Digital Identity Wallet?
Um, we follow what's going on, and of course, we participate as the Netherlands in what's going on related to how we set legislation of the use of digital ID in future within Europe. Within INS, we focus on our customers. Our customers are third country nationals using residence permits and asylum seekers using what we call the asylum seeker cards, the W documents, we call this. And that's a complete different group of people compared with citizens of the Netherlands. And we already did a pilot related to the use of digital ID amongst asylum seekers. So yes, we do want to adopt a digital ID in future, and within INS we focus on our customers and how we can set and how we can create something which suits them and which fits them and which they are willing to use in future.
And I think actually the last time we spoke, you were thinking about how you can provide physical ID cards to these groups of people, asylum seekers, and the design of that, I distinctively remember that. So it's kind of evolved really with a lot of emphasis on digital ID. How do you balance privacy and national security, with implementing these digital ID systems to people? What focus would you put on security and privacy?
The focus on privacy needs to be exactly the same or even better than how we are using the current processes, the process by issuing people a physical document. So if that's what we will achieve with digital ID, and we make sure that it's fully reliable and it's really hard to commit fraud with digital ID. I think it opens a lot of doors because we can offer additional services to our people using digital ID, which are not accessible when you have a physical ID. We use digital platforms within the Dutch government already for years with DigiD, a platform which is used by the Dutch government to communicate with the Dutch citizens and people who are legally stay in the Netherlands. Um, and for our customers, for example, the asylum seekers, if we can do things digital, which they now need to do physical or in presence, we also make their lives a little bit more easy. So there are a lot of benefits by having a digital ID platform in future for our citizens.
Absolutely. We've touched on ID inclusion. I'd be interested to hear a bit more about your pilots and kind of what you're researching really within this vast space. Do what fraud trends or border related trends influence your recent research?
Um, well, the focus on the pilot digital ID asylum seeker was the usability of the app and the willingness to adopt the app by asylum seekers. As suddenly a government asks, voluntarily of course, an asylum seeker to use an app, to download an app on their phone, and to use this in order to create a digital ID and ID yourself. Um, so the first question we were phrasing was, okay, are these people willing to use their own phones with a government app in order to ID themselves? And the outcome was, in a way, surprising that they trusted the Dutch government and they were willing to adopt these kinds of technologies. So that was already a huge positive outcome out of this pilot. Furthermore, we know the technology is there. We know there are several companies within the Netherlands, but also worldwide, who can provide a digital ID, a wallet, and do this in a secure manner. ICAO already set some standards related to how to use digital ID. So by following these steps, I think you secure the way you adopt these kind of technologies.
Absolutely. I think we're nearly at a draw to our a close to our interview. Any final thoughts in terms of what you're going to be really the main key points to discuss in June at Identity Week Europe around digital ID? Obviously, you're going to have a lot of peers that you've known for many, many years in the industry. What are the key things to discuss this year that have moved the dial?
I think the key thing needs to be why we adopt a certain technology and whether that's digital ID or a new security in the passport. Okay, the aim needs to be to prevent identity fraud. And by doing so, it doesn't matter how you increase the level of security, and so you decrease the level of people to commit identity frauds. And if this can be done in a safer way, and if digital ID leads to a safer way to identify yourself, and it can also make the life of our citizens more easy, then we need to adopt these kind of technologies. And bringing this back to the discussion we had somewhere in the 90s when we wanted to integrate a chip inside of a passport. And some people were saying, oh, they're absolutely crazy. Why do we need to add a chip to a passport? And now we are like 25, 30 years in future, and we see that the chip is fully reliable, and we really rely on the chip now. We rely on the chip when people cross borders via an automatic gate, and that's what we achieved related to a chip, and that's what we can achieve with digital ID, in my opinion, as well in future.
Absolutely. There's advancements all the time, and it's always great to see. Thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you again in June.
Thank you.